Achilles heel to me, but I don't worry about it as much as I used to for some reason. I just was going out there and saying the lines, trying not to get fired. And I need to work harder. I got a lot to learn. I need to learn more dialects. I've tried it in New York. My speech teacher said, when I was doing Shakespeare, it sounds like Tennessee Williams. Tommy Jones was in my about 6 projects. He said, change teachers. He's a brilliant man. Yeah, that's Chris Christopherson. I survived one with him, but Tommy went to Harvard and, you know, roommates without door. But I'm still going back. They ask great questions. When you think, gosh, you still think about the death scene in Andersonville. Thank you for asking that. And I apologize for being from Appalachia. I married my cousin. No. I worked with Jack Elam. He said, you know, your sister's better than your mama and all this stuff, you know. Jack Elam was a wonderful old character actor. Forgive my digression. It's fragmented neurosis here. But about the death scene, I didn't think too much about it. You try, I wanted to not overact, but even then I probably said, I won't get a close-up. I won't get a close-up. There's more than one of us, right? 3 shots okay, but I love the close-ups. They make stars. Thank you both.
Yes, sir.
Chris Cartwright, any memories working with Fast Parker and Dead Ends?
Yes, actually, we just had a 50th anniversary. And first, we had gone up about 10 years ago. We went up and we did a documentary, and Fest was there and everything. But he passed away 4 years ago. But the 50th anniversary was just up at the winery, and his daughter Ashley and Eli, his son, they run the whole. It's a family thing. So it was really great because Ed Ames was there, and Rosie Greer came, and I was there, Darby Hinton was there, and Barney Rosenzweig, who did the last 4 years of the series. He flew in from Florida. And it was so cool because we got to see, they took us out on a big catamaran and everything like that, and went all around the Santa Barbara. And then we got to see the pilot, which we did in 1964, which was black and white, which I hadn't seen since 1964, so that was totally trippy. But the amazing thing about Fest was he was so tongue-in-cheek, and I hadn't realized that. He was a lovely, lovely man. He was just great, and he used to drive around in this little tiny Porsche, and he was 6'6", and he would fly back to Santa Barbara. He would take the helicopter back. But during the week, he used to sleep in his dressing room. He used to peel himself out of this little tiny Porsche. And it was like sort of like how many clowns can you fit into it? It was hysterical. But he was a lovely person. And you know, it was funny because tall actors are rare. Most of your actors are 5'7", 5'8", something like that. And of course, every bad guy that they brought on, they'd have to stick Fess in a hole, and the other actor was the bad guy on an apple box. It was hysterical. I mean, it was just great. And Ed was there. And when we had gone up 10 years ago, Fess has a bed and breakfast in Los Alamos. And every Thursday night, they would have open mic night. There was this thing with the play the piano, and when we were there, Jane Russell came in, and so she sang, and it was just every Thursday night, all the people that were in the area, he'd just say, come on in, and they'd set up chairs, and Fess would sing, and Marcy would sing, and Ed Ames was there, so he sang, and then they pulled out sheet music, Daniel Boone was the man. So we all hung around the piano and sang Daniel Boone was the man. It was hysterical. He was lovely, absolutely lovely. And it was great to see that. He looks fantastic. showed that Johnny Carson show. Which was and it was so funny because after the saying, he said, I didn't never throw a tomahawk. He said, the day before, I'm standing out in a friend's house and they give me an axe, and I'm throwing this thing, this axe. And I love how he said, well, you should sort of go like this and you throw it. Well, he said, he said that went on for 4 minutes, that laughter. It was hysterical. It was great. Then Johnny says, oh, I didn't know you were Jewish. That was, oh my God, that was hysterical. They showed that whole clip. Oh my God, it was just, that was great.
Yes, sir.
Again, for Miss Cartwright, I wonder if you could elaborate on the infamous chest burster scene from Alien. I've heard stories about it, how Ripley set it up. Can you tell your side?
Okay. Actually, the little chest burster guy, Sigourney and I had a scene afterwards that followed it, so we needed to know what the hell this thing looked like. And we didn't have any idea. So they took us down to the puppet shop where they had created this little penis thing. And of course, these guys were so excited about this. And you know, pumping this thing around. It was like, they was like, we're looking at this thing, and this is, you know, what we're supposed to be so scared about. Well, when it came to the actual scene, John went downstairs, and they had packed him. He had a false chest of like cartilage, and he was stuffed with offal, and it was all in formaldehyde. It was grotesque. We were all upstairs for about 4 hours, and then of course they take us down. The whole set is decked out in plastic. There are 4 cameras. The stench was just hideous. I started to gag as I walked into this because we're all in plastic. They're all wearing raincoats. I thought that was a little strange. Anyway, they had slit the T-shirt so that the thing could come out. And I was told I'd get a little blood on me. So I said, oh, okay, I'm not thinking much of it. So the first part that you see is when the thing starts to bleed. And then that was sort of like a little pump thing. And then they started to do the chest burst. Well, it wasn't cut quite enough. And so they realized they weren't going to be able to get it. Well, of course, we're standing around. We don't know, you know, not the idea, what the hell's going on here. Anyway, the tensions built up. They split it in the corner. So here we are. We start to do the whole scene, I guess. And we all became so totally, what you see is the only shot that was ever done. We all started to look to see. I leaned into a blanket, which, oh my God, that thing came out and it hit me square in the face. And it's like, oh my God. It was like a Max Sennett movie. I go, boom, boom, boom. My knees hit the back of the blanket. I flipped upside down, and there's 2 boobs sticking out. And I was still filming. I rolled over, I came around, and I got back into the scene. It was the most ridiculous. And on these, I just saw these outtakes. It's on the new desk, and it's hysterical. I mean, I just disappeared. It was great. I felt glad that they found that stuff. It was just very funny. But no, we were just like, if you look at us, all of us are so curious. We all are leaning in. We're all like going in to look and check and see what it is. And boy, it was a shocker. And then afterwards, they had it running down they split the table open about, maybe 6 inches. And then they had the guy on a dolly and this little puppeteer, and they, you know, he was like this, and turn his head and do the little teeth thing. It was fantastic. And then they pull him on this dolly down the whole thing. It's fabulous. It was so simple, and yet it was so effective. And nobody had ever seen anything like it before. So I just think it was that whole shop thing that was stinky messy.
back there.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Sanderson. I'm just curious, what was your reaction when you get the script for that final episode of Newhart and see how that program is going to be ending?
Well, it was a bit of a shock, I guess, but I didn't know that they were going to do the scene with Suzanne Plachette as a dream, so I guess I was, after most of 8 seasons, I was still on a need-to-know basis. But we married 3 Jewish princesses, they were described as, and Lisa Kudrow was there, and I'm sure they were thrilled to death to get to marry us. But it was fun and bittersweet. You know, I had a regular job where I knew I could go back and take somebody out to eat. But the script, I don't know, the show came in #1. Maybe I'm not talking about, I digress too much. It was a fun show to do. Kept some of the clothes. They actually put a suit on me. And I'll get off. I could tell one story. I used to tell the actors it wasn't that great because some of my friends weren't working, hadn't had a break with that high profile. One of them, which you probably did a movie with, he said, "Made you famous, didn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." At the time. It also stigmatizes you doing a sitcom. They might not, Ridley, for instance, Ridley Scott's casting director would say, "They pay me to find people who haven't been on TV." But I like a regular job. I don't need a lot of money, I just need constant money. Answer the question yet. I hear it from Sharon.
I have a bathroom I need to finish it. So.
It saw my hand. Oh, there we go. Yes, ma'am.
Was Bob Newhart, did Bob Newhart kind of run the show? I was curious what his involvement in the show was.
Attila the Hun. But you didn't see it. It all happened behind the scenes, you know. I think he's a great gentleman. I love the way he treated the crew. He shot his old show on the same stage. He didn't believe in staying until 1 and 2 in the morning when the audience was tired. But I consider myself lucky all the time because you'd see an actor show up on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, they weren't there. And I said, what happened? I learned later, it maybe not fit into Bob's vision. But he was a brilliant guy. Oh, he told me, and a lot of people just don't like this phrase, but he said, brilliant is Hollywood's word for fair. The way they do, thank you for laughing, but the way they flatter, motivate you is really, you know, and so I did, later, every time somebody says, brilliant, I said, yeah, fair. But he did call all the shots. His manager was the head of MTM, so he had this incredible power, like I would read Jackie Gleason had. And but for some reason he liked us, and I used to thank him in Sparkles. What was I doing in Sparkles? Hillbilly from Tennessee. But he would say, if you weren't good, you wouldn't be here. He's like a father. He came down on me one time, and. But one time in 8 years, I could tell you, but I get so long-winded. You know, may I share? We had this AD who we believed he was Newhart's spy. In the first AD, he said, do you want a teleprompter? You got a lot of wine? I said, no, give it to Bob. He went and told him. He came over to me and said, I wanted to help you. You've got a lot of lines here. But I love Bob Newhart. To this day I do. I've worked with some monsters. They're not always perfect as we are.
But it reminded that when Bob Newhart and Joe Hirsch show, and I played Jason Bateman's mom. Yeah, so
George and Leo.
George and Leo, yeah. So I did several of those.
Well, I hope it was a year.
Yeah, he was great. I liked him very much.
He had an accounting background. He made musician. He's a very bright man, and that's where it all starts. I have a law degree. Forgive me for promoting myself. People think that I'm not as dumb as I sound. But anyway, Bob started law school. I'll get a reason in there for being vain, and he quit. That made he empathized with me. See, I finished. Never took the bar. He quit. He's a zillionaire.
Okay, does anyone else have a question? Yes, sir.
Veronica, did you have this scene? I've never seen the set of man. You got this smack earlier or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's actually in the director's cut. Yeah, they put that in the director's cut. When we come back onto the ship after John has been attacked by this thing, she doesn't want to let us back onto the ship because it could be infectious or whatever. And we sort of argue, and then the traffic, the little shuttle thing is opened up and we get to come on board. And I'm supposed to walk up to her and slap her across the face because why wasn't she going to let us on board? Well, every time I went to slap Sigourney, she would duck. So, I mean, you go like this, like this. So my direction was, would you just get her this time? Okay. So I went like that, she ducked my back. And I believe that she was the one who sort of talked me into taking it out of the first thing because she felt that Wiggly would fall. And of course, she'd gone right into my hand. Oh my God, it was terrible. But that was my direction. Let's get her this time. Well, I did.
That's the character.
As the character.
That happened to me on Deadwood, and I ran up to tell my friend and I slapped this guy too many times, and I said, just as a character, and he said, always is.
Does anyone else have a point? Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about Deadwood? How it ended up roughly like that?
Well, Chris Albrecht was the head of the HBO. The show was getting expensive. David Milch was probably imploding, and David Milch used to teach English literature at Yale. He's a brilliant man. I'm using that word again. But he and I think Albrecht maybe had a falling out. And so all of a sudden, we'd bought a house in Pennsylvania, and David called me and said, oh, you're not going to pick the show up. But I don't know to this day, this note was as much fun as I ever had. But why they did it, it's not fair to the audiences. I get asked that a lot, and I just don't know. I don't know. I saw David Milch said to MIT, I read, well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting off the bus after 4 years, and I said to Shane, we're talking about that. HBO's got to know. HBO's got to know. And David ended up getting off the bus after 3 years because they canceled the show. It's like me saying, well, I think I'll do this another year and then I'll go play golf. And even if I do it, then they cancel it. We'll replace your character. I don't know if you can understand my fragmented words, but I do not know why they canceled it. But luckily they gave me another job. But they asked David to do another show, which is so I forget, it lasted 12 episodes. But karma comes back because the guy that helped make the decision, Chris Albrecht, got fired for slapping his wife around in Las Vegas. Now he's the head of Showtime. Sorry, Stars. He'd never hire me. I could tell some Albrecht stories. not so perfect myself.
It was such a wonderful cast, though. I just love the actors on that show. Yeah, Rippy, so many good. Oh, yeah.
Well, it was easier because some of them were graybeards like me, but on True Blood, they're all handsome and beautiful. It's easier to survive around old folks. Sometimes. Thank you, Doty, for asking.
Yes, the gentleman in the back, which I think may take us to the end because we have to leave this room by 6.
Okay, real quick, William, you did a first season episode of Babylon 5, one of my all-time favorites. You basically played an underworld gangster or thug, and you got to beat up people and stuff. Do you remember anything from that show?
I remember his name was Deuce. That seems appropriate. But I love the creator. Was it Straczynski?
Joe Straczynski, yeah.
Yeah, and a wonderful director named Jesus Trevino. And I met him and I said, hey, Jesus, he said, yeah, it's Jesus, something. And he was joking with me. But he hired me again on the show. And he worked a lot with Hispanics. Talk about mentoring. He was a great guy. But Straczynski gave me as good a compliment as I could get. I guess he wrote me an episode of the revival of Twilight Zone, yeah. And they said, you're a leading man. And I fell in love with a statue. But I'll take it. He's the genius type. I know we ran out of time. Am I around to ask her? I know she has a movie coming out. Can I be in your next movie?
Like I've been, I'm lucky to get the movies myself.
We were in one time. I refresh your memory.
Yes.
It is called Mirror, Mirror 2 or something. We did. Don't judge me by it. You know, Roddy McDowell was in it. For me, it was a thrill to meet him, and he helped get me in the motion picture.
Oh my God, it was just so totally horrible that movie. I was a blind nun. Originally, it was supposed to be, what's her name? Not Sally Keller. It was supposed to be, I can't remember what her name is. But she backed out, and I ended up doing it, and I had to wear her contact lenses. I mean, which were those like bathrooms on my eyes. I mean, I couldn't even see. And we're doing one horrible scene where I could see white. I couldn't see anything that was black. It was and I'm walking along and I'm following this white shirt, thinking he's next to the camera. Well, they said, well, that was fantastic. What are you doing over there? I was following him. I couldn't see anything. It was just horrible. And then I got Tommy numbers, Tommy numbers, and they wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't shoot my scene a day early so I could do Tommy numbers. So I didn't end up doing it. Because it was a horrible movie.
I was trying to give myself credibility. I forget what I played, Sharon. It was so confusing. What was it? In Mirror, Mirror 2. What was it? I shouldn't have brought it up. But, you know...
It was a horrible movie.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw it straight through, but I wanted to meet Roddy McDowell. They said
that was Mark's first movie. Because I had worked with Mark on a television thing where I was kidnapped he was a kidnapper on a bus, and I can't even remember what it was. And look at what's happened to him. I mean, God bless him. He is a sweetheart.
Yes, he was, and even Roddy, you grow up seeing these people, and they'd say, well, we got so-and-so, and we got so. Oh, okay. But, you know, I can't always pick and choose.
All right. I think, unfortunately, we're out of time. And once again, you gave us all the questions I can have to do anywhere. Thank you all so much.